This is CaneSport Inside the Lines with Gary Ferman, publisher of CaneSport.com. The ACC home opener against arch rival Florida State, Gary. So it's a big week for Miami Hurricanes football.
Always a big week when Florida State comes to town, Greg, and there'll only be 13,000 fans on the stands, but I don't think that diminishes the importance of the game. Florida State's coming off a loss in their opener. They're trying to get some traction under a new coach, and Miami has just been reinvigorated by everything that's happened in the offseason, by the way they've started the year, and with Clemson coming up next after Florida State. Without question, a huge, huge evening for Miami on Saturday night.
Yeah, we talked about last week's game being so important. You don't want to have to win this week. Now it's one of those games where, yeah, if you win, it's really important for the season because you're not supposed to beat Clemson. And if you lose that game, hey, you're still 3-1. You're still 2-1 in the ACC. Things are still looking good. That's why that game, that win last week against Louisville was so important. And now they're going to play a desperate Florida State team, as you said, coming off their opening game a couple of weeks ago. They scored 13 points against Georgia Tech. They break in, new system under Mike Norvell. But it kind of looked like the same Florida State program. It's going to take Mike Norvell a little bit of time to recruit and get his players in there.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been, talking to some people up in Tallahassee this week, and they're down in the dumps. They're feeling the way Miami was feeling, and people around Miami were feeling at the end of last year after losing the FIU, Duke, and Louisiana Tech to finish the season, and it's almost like a feeling of hopelessness right now. I mean, you go out, you change the coaching staff, you bring in a new head coach, and then you lose to Georgia Tech at home on opening day. I mean, it doesn't get much tougher than that. But, coming down here to Miami, you're going to get whatever their best is. You're going to probably get it. I think if Miami is able to get things going its way early in that game, that Florida State might not have the fortitude that they would typically feel like they would need to get through those situations.
Sure.
I'm sure the players are a little down in the dumps right now.
Confidence is once you lose it, it's kind of hard to get back.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, if it starts going bad for them, I could see it potentially snowballing. But at least to start the game, I think they're going to get the best that Florida State has to offer. And I think that if Florida State's able to do some things and stay in the game and get it to the fourth quarter, it could be your typical Miami-Florida State game. But Miami's got it going pretty good right now, and I'm personally expecting a convincing Miami victory.
Oh, wow. All right. Already making a prediction. I guess that's it. We'll see you next week, everybody. No. So taking a look at Florida State, because, look, statistically, they only had 370 yards of total offense. And I don't think, look, Georgia Tech, I like the hire at Georgia Tech. I think, they changed everything, no longer running the triple option and all that. They're going to be a better program with this. Collins is a good coach. They're heading in the right direction. It's not a bad Georgia Tech team, but when you're Florida State, you don't lose the program. You're not supposed to lose these types of games. There's still, even though this is still kind of that a 2 or 3 year slide for the program, it's still kind of hard for the fans to get over it when you lose these types of games and you only scored 13 points. You only have 370 yards of total offense.
You know what, Greg? I've watched both of Georgia Tech's games, and you mentioned Georgia Tech, and they are an improved program, and yeah, they went into Tallahassee and they were able to obviously win, which was an amazing accomplishment for that program. And then they went against a Central Florida team, and it kind of got away from them a little bit. Like, they were right there with Central Florida in the early parts of that game. They left like 10 points on the field, and then Central Florida got it rolling and was able to win going away in Atlanta. But I could see why that team was able to play the way it did against Florida State and get it done in Tallahassee. And it was Florida State's first game under a new coaching staff. And, I'm not sure that they can't improve off of that. I just, I don't see the same quality of roster in Tallahassee that we've grown accustomed to seeing for, decades now. It just doesn't look the same to me.
Nope. And, of course, you have other guys that have decided to leave early, as a lot of these college kids can do now. And that's what's happened. Their top players of the last few years have left early, sort of like what happened to Miami. But as we talked about last week, and I think we saw it again with the Hurricanes, even though they lost their premier defensive player, you bring King and Harris and Jordan and these playmakers to every game, you have a chance.
No doubt about it. And obviously, an amazing job done by Manny Diaz in the transfer portal has sort of, obviously reinvigorated his own roster, and that's where I think Miami has the edge now in this series. Florida State had won 7 in a row, Greg, and now Miami's won 3 in a row. And when you just look at, there's more quality on the Miami side of the ball right now because of these transactions that they were able to make and bringing in the transfers during the offseason. And at the end of the day, the Miami Florida State series comes down to, to coin Santana Moss, big time players making big time plays in big time games. And right now, Miami's got more big time players than Florida State.
That's right.
Because of the way they've dominated the transfer portal.
And in last week's win against Louisville, even though they gave up over 500 yards of total offense, they controlled the game for the most part. They had the big lead. So you're going to give up a lot of yardage when you have a big lead. It was kind of a misleading kind of deal, but I'm sure there's still Miami would like to play a little bit better defensively. I don't think that's going to change much this year because at least on offense, we can identify those 3 players. We still can't really identify guys on defense and say, yeah, that guy, he can come up big this week. We have a chance. It's just not the way the defense is made up this season.
Well, you got the 2 defensive ends who I think are very good players that you can count on. Okay, Jalen Phillips and Quincy Roche. We know we can count on those 2 guys every single week. I don't think there's any question about that. I think the safety, Bubba Bolden, is another one that's showing that he's going to be reliable and you can count on him every week.
Okay.
But there are holes. Greg, there's holes in the Miami defense. Let's be honest. I mean, I was concerned about the defensive tackles before the season. I think I'm even more concerned about the defensive tackles now. I'm trying to maybe give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. I'm not sure the Louisville offense and the way they run the ball, was quite in the wheelhouse of the way John Ford, for example, Jordan Miller's another one. Those are big defensive tackles. They're kind of pluggers. They can't really move real well. The Louisville running game kind of makes the big guys move. So the matchup was not great for them. But at the same time, I mean, your defensive tackles have not distinguished themselves at all. So, that's obviously a continued concern. I thought the linebacker play, although Zach McLeod played really well against Louisville, I thought Bradley Jennings did not, and I don't feel very confident about what's behind those 2 right now at linebacker. Sam Brooks flashes every now and then. Avery Huff clearly looks like he's not ready yet. So there's not a lot up the middle for Miami, and I don't know that Florida State is necessarily built to exploit that. Their offensive line is not great. So, are they going to be able to play smash mouth? I don't think so. So the question going into this game, Greg, is where is Florida State going to get offense from? That to me is the question.
Yeah, because even though Miami's defense could have played a lot better, Louisville, as we said, they have an exciting quarterback in Cunningham. He's had a lot more success than Blackman has. They have a ton of receivers. They've got, the Hawkins had 164 yards rushing last week against Miami. You just don't feel that. Terry's an exciting receiver from Florida State, but you don't really get, you're not afraid of the type of talent like you were against Louisville. It's just not there for Florida State. So that means Florida State's defense is going to have to stop Miami. And I just don't see that happening either. Even though Florida State's defense only surrendered 16 points, Miami's offense is on a roll right now. And yeah, they might have a bad series or 2, but as they showed last week, they had a 75-yard touchdown reception from Knighton out of the backfield. You had Jordan and his 47-yard touchdown, and you had Cameron Harris' 75-yard touchdown run. I mean, that's what playmakers do. Florida State doesn't have any.
Yeah, and they might be able to find some favorable matchups on the outside. With Terry, he's a good receiver.
Yeah, Terry's the guy they got. Yeah, Terry's the one guy that you have to pay attention to. But if you have one guy, you should be able to take him out of the game.
Correct. And he'll get some catches. He'll obviously be a big part of the game plan, but is he going to be able to take over the game? I doubt it. Not likely. And then, where else does Florida State turn? They don't have really an established running back.
Nope.
I mean, the Joshua Corbin kid that came from Texas A&M, he's okay. Um, the Webb kid only had 45 yards in the season opener. I mean, I just look at I look at my scouting report for the Seminoles, and I'm looking up and down, and I just don't see a lot of weapons.
I know.
And Miami's coming with running backs. Miami's coming with the quarterback. Miami's got 2 tight ends that can hurt you. Miami's got weapons all over the place, and I just don't see where Florida State really has anything more than maybe Terry.
Yeah, it's almost like you're looking at a FIU roster, to be honest with you. It's like, what's going on here?
If it wasn't FSU, I mean, I would feel sorry for them. But
yeah,
I'm
that's
not
right.
I'm not feeling sorry
No.
for FSU, Greg.
No,
I can't do it.
No, it's going to take a lot more than a couple of years to feel sorry to Florida State. Look at the difference as far as the passing statistics. You got King, who averaged last week 10.8 yards per reception. Blackman averaged 4.6 per reception. 198 yards through the air on 43 passing attempts, and he turned the ball over 3 times. Yeah. So I look, they're an 11-point favorite, Miami. When I first saw the odds, the first thing I would, before even breaking down the game, I was like, wow, that's pretty big. Miami being an 11-point favorite over Florida State, even knowing what had gone on by both teams this season. But then when you start breaking down everything, you realize, yeah, why not give up 11 points? I got no problem giving up 11.
I mean, if you have to bet the game, I mean, it's like, to me, that's a lot of points for a Miami-Florida State game. But, I mean, on paper, you look at it, there's a reason why Miami's favored by that much. And,
absolutely.
We just went through it.
Yep. Yeah, taking a look at some of the trends, let's see. Now, here's the interesting thing. Last week when we did the show, we talked about Manny Diaz and the road dog situation. And by time the game started, when we talked last week, they were a 2.5-point dog. By the time the game started, they were a 2.5-point favorite. So all of those, the dog stuff turned into favorite stuff, and that's a good thing because last year Miami was 3-6 straight up, and 2-7 against the spread as a favorite under Diaz. This year they're already 2-0 straight up and against the spread as a favorite. And those are the types of trends that are very important because that's telling you that when you're favored, you're taking care of business. You're doing what you're supposed to do. And that's something they didn't do last year. So I think that's a very positive trend for Miami. Also, if you take a look at,
let me just stop you for a minute.
Sure.
I know you talked to a lot of these gambling guys. Were you able to get a feel for why the line moved so much?
I haven't talked to. I got Mark Lawrence today, actually an hour after this show, and he's my main source. I'll ask him. Yeah.
It was really, really weird. I mean, it like the line moved like I think 2-3 points on game day.
On game days, okay. So it was Pick'em on Saturday or on Friday.
It was trending towards the end. Then all of a sudden on Saturday morning,
everybody was on Miami.
Yeah, everybody was on Miami, and they ended up being right.
Because that's a lot.
Yeah,
especially for a road team. Yeah, that's cool. There weren't any injuries. So yeah,
no, there was nothing of that sort that would have affected the game.
No.
But obviously the money going into Miami was good money. I mean,
exactly.
Somebody made a few bucks.
Yeah, there's something they caught. Now here's a couple other trends that favor Miami in the game. Mike Norvell. Okay, he's coached in 9 games in 4 years at Memphis when his team was a road dog. He's won 1. He's 1-8.
Wow.
Straight up and against the spread as a road dog. So that's a bad sign for Florida State. Good sign for Miami. Also, Florida State 2-7 with a 2-7-1 ATS in their last 9 as a road dog. So the combination of Florida State and Mike Norvell on the road as a dog, not good at all. Even though the road team in the series, Florida State Miami, has covered 6 straight times. So, but but it's one of those things where I always when I use the trends to hopefully either push me over the top with a game I like, or to go, yeah, maybe I'll just stay away from this one. I kind of liked it, but the trends are looking the other way. I'll stay away from this one. I'll never go the opposite just because of a trend.
Well, I mean, based on what you're saying here, I mean, it sounds like lay the points.
Absolutely. That is what it's saying. And the only thing that would work against anyone thinking about taking Florida State or pro Florida State would be, like I said, the road team in this Florida State Miami series has covered 6 straight times, and the dog in the series has covered 4 out of the last 5, winning 2 of those 5. So, and that's not a surprise. You get a rivalry. Dogs usually.
All right, so let's just talk for a second. Like, what could work against that? What could work against the runaway Miami victory? Well, they're getting their safety back. Hamza Nasruddin, I'm not sure how he pronounces his last name.
He's
but
difficult. But he's a very good player. He might be
he's
the top pro prospect.
He's your typical Florida State defensive player. So they're getting him back from injury, and that's going to help them, I think, quite a bit. Assuming he's healthy. I mean, he's been one of the best safeties in the ACC.
Not enough,
without question. Okay, they got another solid DB in Asante Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
So, they got a couple solid defensive backs, and I'm sure the other guys. I don't know that much about them, but I'm sure they're competent Florida type defensive backs. Up front, you got to hope that Marvin Wilson has an NFL game, no doubt, if you're Florida State. And they're going to need to get a great game from Emmett Rice, who's their best linebacker. If they can get great games from all those guys and make a few plays, maybe they could stay in the game, into the fourth quarter the whole way and make it a little bit closer than the experts expect. But when you combine the way it looks with the trends, I mean, like we said, I think it looks like a big Miami victory. That's what I'm personally expecting. But I am respectful of the fact that it's Miami, Florida State, and that Florida State will have athletes, and we'll see what their coaches are able to do.
And it's a rivalry, and as I just noted, the dog in the rivalry has covered 6 straight times. So it's not one of those, oh yeah, go bet your house on this game. It's not like that. Logically, Miami is looking a lot better right now. It's early in the season. They've got the better playmakers. So turnovers, to me, could be the only way that this game is going to be in the fourth quarter with a couple of minutes left, and Miami's got to sweat out whether they win or lose. It's going to be Florida State has got to win the turnover battle.
And Miami has not had a turnover yet this season. So, they're showing that protecting the football is a big part of Rhett Lashley's offense. And if they can continue that trend, I think they're going to be in pretty good shape in most games they play this year.
And Miami's also looking pretty good as far as Borregales is concerned. He's 5 for 5 on field goals. He kicked a 57-yarder in the game against Louisville. So the kicking game, as far as field goals are concerned, not looking like something Miami's got to worry about this year so far.
Absolutely, and what a difference that's made. Manny Diaz talked this week about just the feeling on the sideline when Borregales made that 57-yard field goal the other day. Just the confidence that it gives the whole roster to know that you got a guy sitting over there that can make field goals, and if you get a kick, he's probably going to make it, and even if it's a long attempt, he can make it. And Manny felt like it had really just given a whole uplifting feeling to the whole football team.
Now, as far as some of the negatives that I remember jotting down from last week's game, the wide receiver position continues to be a sore spot. And Pope and Harley dropping 2 easy passes, and they need some more production from their wide receivers.
They're not incompetent kids.
No, they're not. They're just inconsistent.
Yeah, I mean they're capable of doing things, but are they elite receivers? No, they're not. And but Rhett Lashley looks like he's capable of scheming up a game to where he doesn't have to count on those guys to win it. He's got enough other places where he can go with his running game, with his quarterback, with
his those tight ends. Yeah.
So I'm looking for a lot more 2 tight ends on the field at a time. Quite personally, like I think that's when their offense looks the best. And you'll continue to see a sprinkling of the wide receivers, no doubt. But I don't, when Miami has to have a play, I'm not sure they go in that direction.
No, probably not. Also, the penalties have got to come down. Too many penalties in the game against Louisville. So when you step up a competition in a couple of weeks, take on Clemson, if you expect to hang with them, you can't give a great team gifts. So hopefully this week will be a good week to start limiting the flags. I also thought they lost containment several times because you have some big time playmakers. You have the quarterback, and again, I'm not sure Florida State can expose Miami, if that is a weakness for Miami or not. Just inconsistency. They're not losing containment all the time. Just talking about making sure that when you can't give the edge, you got to make sure that, especially whether it's the DB coming up on a running play or a receiver on a screen, just make sure that they don't get the edge. If they get the edge, that's a no-no, because you can get 30, 40 extra yards if you give the edge. Bring them back into the defense. I thought they lost containment there a couple of times, but in general, I'm nitpicking. Again, they did give up over 500 yards, but this is not the type of team, Florida State, that is going to be able to expose any weaknesses Miami has on defense.
Exactly. I mean, I think moving forward in the season, if a team has a good offensive line, they're going to feel pretty good about what they might be able to get done against this defense. But I'm not sure Florida State's that team. I don't think their offensive line is very good. And I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be interesting to see what, Norvell's a good offensive coach. I know he's not going to be there because of coronavirus, but he's involved in the game planning, and he's got his staff that, they've all worked together. They had very good offensive teams at Memphis. So, I mean, he's a good coach, and it'll be interesting to see what they come up with.
He's a good coach, and he's got his job. He's got a good couple of years of recruiting ahead of him.
No doubt.
Before. And look, Miami, like you said, they lost 7 straight. Now they've won 3 straight. And so if anybody says anything like, well, they've already won 3 straight, maybe you lose some of that luster. Well, just take a look at Michigan, Ohio State. Michigan used to kill Ohio State all the time. They beat them like 10 out of 11, 13 out of 15, whatever. They got Cooper fired. Now Michigan can't beat Ohio State. So in college football, it can go in those types of waves. And I can see Miami saying, hey, so what that we won 3 in a row? They beat us 7 in a row. I'm not going to be satisfied until we beat them 7 in a row.
Got to get it to 7.
That's
doubt.
Right.
And then once you get to 7, you might as well keep going.
Then you might as well keep going. That's right. Next,
why ever stop when it's Florida State?
Yeah. We're off next week since it's a bye week. We're back in 2 weeks. Phil Kornblut from sportstalksc.com. He's been covering the sports field in South Carolina for 36 years. He's been on this network several times talking Clemson football, so he'll be our special guest in 2 weeks. We'll start the show talking Clemson, so this way we have an idea about what the opponent is going to look like against Miami in 2 weeks, and then we'll wrap up the show like we always do on this show and talk about the go inside the numbers and see how the Hurricanes match up against Clemson. So let's hope Miami gets a win this week and sets up a battle of undefeated ACC teams in 2 weeks.
It sounds like a great plan, Greg. And I think that they're going to be up to it. I really do. I think that just the whole mood of the program right now is really, really good.
Yep.
And, getting past Louisville was significant. I know that, Louisville's defense is not real good. I know they gave them 3 touchdowns in that game, yada, yada, yada. But it's hard to go on the road and win at any level of football.
That's a good team, Louisville.
Yeah. I mean, they're not I think their defensive coordinator is probably one of the worst in college football, to be honest with you. I mean, that's 2 years in a row now. Miami has just had their way with them. But that's kind of like Louisville's problem. But they're a very good offensive football team, and Miami was able to make enough plays on that side of the ball to kind of keep them at a modest level and go on the road and get a win. And that in itself, I think, makes a football team feel pretty good about itself. And I just think that they're in a great state of mind as they come into this Florida State game on Saturday night.
All right. Well, good luck to the Canes on Saturday night. Another big one. And they're only going to get bigger if they can beat Florida State and then 2 weeks later take on Clemson. So can't wait to talk about the Clemson matchup, Gary. Appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
All righty, Greg. Always a pleasure.